This message is brought to you by Apple Card. You left your wallet in the car, or was it at home? No need to panic. With your iPhone, you can tap to pay using Apple Card with Apple Pay and earn unlimited daily cash back when you do. Apple Card is ready when you need it, subject to credit approval. Apple Card issued by Goldman Sachs, Bank USA, Salt Lake City branch. Terms and more at applecard.com.
Get almost anything you need delivered with Uber Eats. What do we mean by almost? Well, you can't get a well-groomed lawn delivered, but you can get chicken parmesan delivered. A little escape? No. A delicious bowl of grapes? Yes, that. An afternoon stroll? Sorry, no. A burrito bowl? Happily, yes. A day of sunshine? No. A box of fine wines? Yes. Uber Eats can definitely get you that. Get almost anything delivered with Uber Eats. Order now. Alcohol in select markets. Product availability may vary by region. See app for details.
Toyota's all in all season with another year of Toyota Game Day giveaways. The official automotive partner of the NFL is giving fans the chance to win epic prizes like Brock Purdy's favorite Toyota Sequoia, NFL shop gear, and more. Play for free by predicting which big plays will happen during the second half of every Sunday night football game. This is going to be fun. Visit toyota.com/NFL now to learn more. Toyota, let's go places. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited. Ends on 2/8/26. Open to legal residents of the 50 United States and D.C., 18 and over. For complete details, how to enter prizes, and official rules, visit toyotasgamedaygiveaways.com.
Today we catch up with the original voice of the Carolina Panthers, Bill Rosinski, still calling NFL games around the league. You hear him, of course, on PGA Golf Radio as well. 10 years as the voice of the Carolina Panthers. We visit with Bill about the great Super Bowl 38 season.
30 seasons of Panther football, a celebration of the players, coaches, and other key figures who've contributed to the organizational success.
All right, and we're going to talk with Bill Rosinski, our good friend and the 10 years first voice of the Carolina Panthers when the team began, and that includes the 2003 season, Bill, of course. We talk about the Super Bowl 38 season. Panthers in 31 years have been to 2 Super Bowls, have not won one. The second one, Super Bowl 50, that was a dominant team, and it was a great team all season long, whereas the Panthers hang on, got an alarm going off. That was my reminder to call you. But the Panthers of 2003, that was a surprise team. They showed improvement in John Fox's first year, the year before, and then they started out 5-0, and it kind of flamed out early that year. But what were some of your thoughts about how the season began for Carolina that year?
Well, I think, Jim, it was all about the emergence of Jake Delhomme as the quarterback of the team. So they signed him in the off season, and I remember this. They used to have, and I don't know if they still do, these Panther caravan trips in the summer where you get some players and some of the top cats and staff, and you'd go to Charleston or Savannah or somewhere, Columbia, and you would have a day there meeting with fans. I remember I was on one of these before that summer, before the 2003 season started, and Jake was on the trip. And no one wanted his autograph. He was sitting at a table in the school, and there were a couple other Panther players there who everybody knew, and he's like sitting there. And I went over and talked to him for a couple of minutes to make him feel good. And I didn't know much about the guy. But as the season got underway, and of course it was all about that opener against Jacksonville, Rodney Peete was the starting quarterback, and I believe it was 17-0 at the half. The offense was doing nothing, and the next thing I know, you and I are in the booth along with Roman. And here comes Jake Delhomme. And I think, Jim, the rest is history. He rallied the team that day. And the Tampa win was goofy because we had blocked 2 field goals. Can we block an extra point, which would have won the game? When they scored at the end, we block it. And you said they started 5-0. And I think for me, the key really that season that I thought this team was going to be really good, we went to Indy and beat the Colts with Peyton Manning. And I think we did it with Deshaun Foster. I think the running back, Stephen Davis, was banged up that day, and I think Foster came in and had a big day. But that to me was like, I think we're going to be pretty good.
Yeah, that was definitely one where you thought, okay, this is, at that time, you talk about the quality teams and to be able to go on the road. And you mentioned the Tampa Bay game, so you win 2 in overtime Then you win a third one against New Orleans later on in overtime and lose one in Atlanta, but go 3-1 in overtime games and had a lot of close games along the way. So I think that was important too. But to your point, like about Jake Delhomme, like for all we knew, he was going to be Matt Moore, right? At that point, like who knew that he would go on to be such a big part of Panthers history as he would go on to be from that point.
Yeah, and I credit him. I think he literally over the next, so that's 03 and through I believe 08. When I think in 08 the Panthers might have had their best team in that run with John Fox when they had double trouble, and I think they went 12-4 during the regular season. That might have been their best team, even though Arizona beat them in a playoff game here in Charlotte. But to me, Delhomme, like you're right. Nobody was thinking this guy was going to do anything. He'd been a journeyman. He had been, he played for the Saints. I think the Cowboys are interested in him, and he comes in. He's really, really the third guy because Chris Weinke was hanging around, and all of a sudden he becomes a leader of this team. Very unorthodox. Did he have a great arm? No, I don't think so. But for some reason, he rallied this team. And he had this rapport with Steve Smith. I don't know how many times we saw Jim over the course of Delhomme's run, including that 2003 season, where they need a big play, and he just heave it to Smith and go, there's three guys around you, go get it. And Steve would usually get it. And then we had a good running game. The defense was outstanding. That team really gelled that year, and obviously we made it all the way to the Super Bowl.
And I remember, too, I think this might be right, the offensive line maybe had one starter miss one game or something. I think they basically had their offensive line intact the entire season.
Yeah, and Jordan Gross was a rookie on that team.
Right, at right tackle.
Yeah, I know. It's funny talking to Jordan a few years later when he's like going, geez, my rookie year would go to the Super Bowl. I'm expecting this to happen every year. Obviously, it doesn't in the NFL. But, yeah, that was a good group. Kevin Donnelly. And just a bunch of grinders in there. Jeff Mitchell, I think, was the center.
Yep.
And then you had good running backs. You had two really good running backs. And then you had Jake, and then the wide receivers with Moose. And the other guy we got to mention is Ricky Prohl, because Ricky turned out to be one of the clutch receivers, caught the touchdown that helped beat Jacksonville. Caught the touchdown in the Super Bowl that would end up being the tying score before, Vinatieri won in overtime. So there was just, and the defense was just really, really good because they had, Dan Morgan was strong. Peppers was new. You had Rucker and Minner and just a bunch of
Chris Jenkins.
Yeah.
You talk about those block kicks in that Tampa Bay game. He was the guy.
Yeah, I know. I mean, this was they could put pressure on the quarterback, and they got turnovers when they needed them. And then we went on that run of the playoffs that no one thought was going to happen either.
No, and that was interesting too because we were kind of the underdog every step of the way. They went 11-5, had that 3-game losing streak in late November, early December, but they finished out with 3 straight wins, win the division by 3 games. The Saints were second in that year in the South at 8-8. But you begin by beating Dallas at home. I think it was the way they beat the Cowboys, right? 29-10. Like you thought, okay, it's a game at home, you could win it. But I mean, the way that they thumped the Cowboys really sent a message moving forward.
Yeah, when I think back to that game again, great crowd like they had for the Dallas playoff game after the '96 season. But this was a Parcells team that came in, and they steamrolled them. I remember Stephen Davis had a great run for a touchdown. Steve Smith got a touchdown pass. It was total domination. And then you're right. We go to St. Louis. The Rams are in St. Louis then. Still greatest show on turf, and shocked them in double overtime. And then on to Philadelphia, I remember somebody came up to me, was a writer in Philadelphia, found out I was the voice of the team. And he walks up to me before the NFC Championship game. He says, hey, do you think you guys have an honest-to-goodness chance to win this game? I go, well, yeah. If you haven't followed us this year, if it's close, we have a great chance to win. We win a lot of close games. And as it turns out, that was, again, they knocked off who's the Eagles quarterback got hurt? Donovan McNabb. Yeah. They knocked him out of the game. I think Ty Detmer had to come in and play for them in that game. And we just, again, a stifling defense. So, but you're right. We went in, no one was expecting us to get the Super Bowl 38, and we did.
I don't know about you, but that St. Louis Rams game, and the Panthers were, whatever the odds were, they were double digits, maybe 12 points, I don't know. That was such a great Rams offense, greatest show on turf and all that. For going double overtime, playoff game, heavy underdog on the road, to me, to this day, 31 years later, is still my all-time favorite Panther game, even more than the 2 Super Bowl games.
Yeah, and, when I think back to that game, we had a nice lead, and then St. Louis came back, and Marshall Faulk was killing us. And I'm convinced to this day, Jim, that if they kind of settled their last drive of the game, they kind of settled for a tying field goal, which they did make. I was convinced because our defense was just worn out, and I thought if they kept grinding us and kept hitting Faulk out in the flat and running the ball with him, I thought they were going to score a touchdown. And I remember talking to Jason Sehorn years later, who was on that Rams team in the secondary. I think Sehorn was the guy that let Steve Smith go by him.
He was. That was his last play in the NFL, by the way, for Sehorn.
Yeah, all right. I saw Sehorn at an ESPN football gathering. He was an analyst at the time, and I started talking about that game. And I said, man, I thought because Mike March was the coach then. I said, man, I thought March was just going to keep grinding there, and because our defense was worn out, and that you guys are going to score a touchdown in the last minute or less to win the football game. And he goes, yeah, we all thought the same thing. and they didn't do it. He just settled for the field goal. And then the other thing I remember about the first play of the second overtime, which was the Delhomme pass to Smith, the play before, Jake had been getting pounded in that game, and he got rocked on the last play of the first overtime. I think he threw an incomplete pass, but he was staggering. In fact, I don't even know if they had to run another play. I don't know if he stayed in the game. But the quarter ended, so we go to break. We come back. He's still out there. And then he goes and hits Smith with that amazing touchdown pass, and we were off to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and Kevin Donnelly laughs, because Kevin does the preseason with us about he got flagged for a couple penalties, and Jake's yelling at him in the huddle. And one they called on one of the other linemen. Oh, thank God they won't know until tomorrow it was me, until they see the actual replay on that. So they advance, they make it. Obviously, we all go to Houston. It's Super Bowl 38, February 1st, and we're down there for 8-9 days, whatever we are, staying in Greenpoint. And we lose. Everyone knows by 3 points, 32-29. First half of that game, though. It looked like for most of it, the Patriots weren't able to pull away, but they were clearly the better team first half, and the Panthers just had trouble, cobbling together a first down or two, let alone everything. Oh, maybe we have run out of gas, and maybe we've sunk over our level as far as what our capabilities are at this point. So that first half, things weren't looking too good in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, in fact, it was a weird game because in the first and third quarters, nothing happened. The first quarter, neither team scored. And then in the second quarter, the Patriots started rolling. And I think we got a little momentum late, right before the half. And then the third quarter, there was no scoring. And then all heck broke loose in the fourth quarter. And it was, it's still, to this day, knock on wood, the longest touchdown pass in Super Bowl history, Jake to Moose. Mm-hmm. And I remember saying, as we were getting ready to call the play, I said, it's been plays like this that Jake Delhomme has been making all year long. Here's the third whatever. And he finds Moose for the touchdown. And then, you and I have talked about this. The John Fox desire to go for two early in that game, to me, dictated how the rest of that game played out and how the Patriots would approach going for 2 points, because I think they converted at least one. And in the end, if my math was right, if we'd have just kept kicking extra points and the Patriots would have been doing what they would have normally done, then that Vinatieri field goal would have been to tie the game. Mm-hmm. But instead we were tied, and, we ended up losing right at the end. Yeah,
and John Fox said, years after that he wished he hadn't chased those 2 points. So they kind of learned all that. They all have those little analytic sheets that tell you when to go for two and things like that. But I always say, don't do it till you have to do it. Whatever game it is, fourth quarter at the earliest at some point, start thinking about it. I wouldn't even begin to even pull that paper out until you get some point in the fourth quarter of any game.
NFL Films has done, and I'm not sure where I saw this, but it's been on a couple of times. It basically it was almost an hour long, I think, retrospective on that game. And it had interviews with like Rodney Harrison, Brewski, some of the other Patriots. And then you had Fox, I think Moose, maybe Jake was in it. And even Rodney Harrison, I think Harrison ended up breaking his arm in that game or something. They said, Mike Minter, they all said it was the most physical football game that they had ever played in. And this was coming from both sides, the Patriots, Panthers, because I think Minter was banged up in that game, and he kept going. Mm-hmm. I think Morgan might have been hurt. He kept going. I mean, it was just one of these, hey, it's your last game. You know, the winner's going to be champions of the NFL. And the other thing I remember, I worked with Ricky Prohl doing some college games. He was my analyst a few years later. And I asked him about Super Bowl 38. Of course, he had lost with the Rams when the Patriots beat him, a few years before that. And he said, Bill, the worst thing about when you lose the Super Bowl, as soon as the game is over, they want you off the field. They rope you off. It's like, get out of here. You lost. Get back to your locker room. We're going to celebrate the victory. He says it's the most humiliating feeling when the league is telling you to get off the field.
Optics. Yeah. I think, sometimes guys want to sit on the bench and just, they don't feel like moving. It's not that they want to be there, but they don't really have the temperament or whatever. They're tired from playing the game to want to get off the field at that point. And, it comes down to, obviously, you go to overtime, and eventually Adam Vinatieri kicks the 41-yard field goal to win it. But, the John Casey kickoff that went out of bounds, and that's something that John's also talked about, Casey has afterwards. Like, he just tried to hit the best tee shot of his life, as he said, if you were a golfer. And as happens in golf often, you drive it in the woods. And he said to him to this day, it was when talking about football, it was his worst football moment because of the impact that it had in that game. It wasn't everything, but you give Tom Brady a short field just to have to get in field goal range. It made their job a lot easier.
Yeah, when I think back to that, I think Brady, they got called for a holding call there because the ball was at the 40, but then I think there was a holding call or something that got pushed back. I think they completed a third and forever. It was like a 3rd and 13 or something like that to keep that drive going. So as bad as people remember the Casey kick, I believe there was a holding call early in that drive, which moved the Patriots back 10 yards. So maybe they were back at the 30 or might have been on the second play, the 32 or 33, something like that. But they ended up converting on a third down. And again, I think both defenses, I think, were worn out by that time because that had been a fist fight all day long. And sadly, the Panthers ended up losing the football game. And, you don't get these opportunities. It's hard to win in the NFL, as they say. And you get to that point, you never know when you're going to get back. So it took Panthers, 12 years to get back for Super Bowl 50. And now we got Super Bowl 60 coming up.
Yeah.
So that was 10 years ago, the last Super Bowl trip. So this is savor the moments when you got them.
Yep, time flies. Super Bowl 60 coming up this year. All right, lastly, I'll let you go. You called Super Bowl 38, of course. Super Bowl 50 you took in, to, I'm sure, just watch as a fan and so forth with your broadcast eyes. Which one do you think hurts more? To me, 50 hurts more because 38 was like a pleasant surprise. The way they advanced, like I said, beating St. Louis, beating Philadelphia on the road. People can't recall how big those upsets were to get there. And then to play New England, I mean, they gave it all they had. Whereas I thought that was an unbelievable season that the bar was so high. You're 17-1 going into Super Bowl 50. You're, I think, a touchdown favorite in that game. Peyton Manning doesn't even play well. Throws for like 130, 140 yards, no touchdowns and a pick. And Denver wins by 2 touchdowns. To me, that one hurt more just because of the promise of what that 2015 team held with all the stars on that team.
Oh, I think you're exactly right. To have the season they had, I think the only loss was to the Falcons late in that season, and then they were blowing out people in the postseason. And they go into that game. And, I think they got an officiating call on a catch that was ruled incomplete in that game that might have turned things around in their favor. They didn't play well. They didn't. And the offense didn't. Newton had that fumble where he kind of hesitated to try to pick it up. He got criticized for that. I heard Von Miller, and this is when he was with the Bills maybe a year or two ago, Von Miller was talking about Super Bowl 50. And he said, we play the Panthers 10 times. They win 9 of those. Mm-hmm. He said, but this time, somehow, some way, we got the win. And I think with especially for Panther fans, they're thinking, okay, all right, we lost, but Newton's in his prime. you got Kuechly, you got all these guys, and we're going to go on a little run here, and it never happened. I mean, Cam had a disappointing next season, and then you have some injuries and other things go on. The next thing you know, you're changing coaches and not making the playoffs for a long time. It's, as I said, it's one of these moments you don't know when you're going to go back. Even though I thought after Super Bowl 50 that the Panthers were set for a run that could last maybe 2, 3, 4 years, like the Chiefs, and it never happened.
Yeah, one of the more stunning stats about this franchise is, as we all know, never have had back-to-back winning seasons in 31 years, and haven't had a winning season, quite frankly, in about 8 years for right now. So it's been a rough time.
Yeah, well, Ron Rivera claimed they had 3 winning seasons in a row, but I don't count 7 and 9 winning the division a winning season.
No, but I'll give him the division championship. He got the division. He may have backed into it, but he got 3 in a row, so he did well with that. Well, Bill, it's great to catch up with you. Before we say goodbye, though, just tell everyone what you're up to. I want to know 3 things from you, how much NFL you're doing these days, and, of course, you got PGA Golf Radio, but also you've got a grandson playing college football.
Yeah, so still in the business. I've been with PGA Tour Radio since 2009, and I'll be working one more tournament this year, late November, down at Sea Island, the RSM. That's Davis Love's tournament, and that's a good event. It's a pretty area of the country, and it's a big event for guys trying to get their tour cards for next year. Working for Compass Media Networks, doing a handful of NFL and college. I did 2 North Carolina games, the Clemson and TCU games, and we could spend another show talking about Bill Belichick's Tar Heels, but yeah. So still doing that. And, my grandson, who was at North Carolina a year ago, but when Mac got fired, he went there because of Mac. He loved Mac. And when Mac Brown got fired, he entered the transfer portal, and this was before they hired Belichick, and he was at Georgia Tech by the end of the week, and he's real happy there. He's a redshirt freshman. He's not playing right now, but they got him working at 4 different positions. The coaches love him, and they just keep telling him to be patient, that next year is going to be his year to have a really good chance to start for them. And heck, they're number 7 in the country right now, according to the latest AP poll. So very happy about his situation there. So yeah, all is good. Just living the dream, as they say.
That's awesome. Well, that's good all the way around. I know we get to see you and Jane at the games occasionally, like we did a couple of weeks ago. So tell the whole gang we said hey, and Bobby and all the crew and Greg. But great to talk with you, Bill, and sharing your memories from Super Bowl 38.
My pleasure, Jim. Anytime.
30 seasons of Panther football.
Get almost anything you need delivered with Uber Eats. What do we mean by almost? Well, you can't get a well-groomed lawn delivered, but you can get chicken parmesan delivered. A little escape? No. A delicious bowl of grapes? Yes, that. An afternoon stroll? Sorry, no. A burrito bowl? Happily, yes. A day of sunshine? No. A box of fine wines? Yes. Uber Eats can definitely get you that. Get almost anything delivered with Uber Eats. Order now. Alcohol in select markets. Product availability may vary by region. See app for details.
Are you fumbling when it comes to getting a confident clean to your end zone? Make the right play. Call an audible and switch from dry toilet paper to wet, extra large dude wipes. Why? It's simple. Wetter just cleans better. You wouldn't use a dry paper towel to clean your car, so why would you use dry TP to clean your own trunk? Dude wipes are wet and extra large, so they clear, never smear your rear, or leave anything behind that can cause embarrassing itch or irritation. So when you go for 2, make sure you got the #1 product in clean. Dude wipes, the GOAT of cleaning your keister. Because no matter where you go with wet, extra large, flushable dude wipes, you always have the home team advantage. Available on Amazon and at major retailers nationwide. Dude wipes, best clean, pants down.
Nationwide is so much more than a great insurance company. They're one of America's largest financial services companies. Like how I'm more than Saquon Barkley, the NFL's reigning leading rusher. I'm also the NFL's leading husher. Shh, hush up back there. Wow, I might have just set the hushing record. Well, almost. For your insurance and financial needs, Nationwide is on your side.
Nationwide Investment Services Corporation, member FINRA, Columbus, Ohio.